Welcome to Civics in a Year, the podcast that makes civic literacy fast, accessible, and surprisingly engaging. In just 10 minutes an episode, we'll tackle one of 250 essential questions about American democracy, how it works, why it matters, and what it means for you. Whether you're a student, a teacher, or just someone who wants to better understand your country and your rights, you're in the right place. Civics in a Year is powered by the Civic Literacy Curriculum from the Center for American Civics and is produced in partnership with the School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership at Arizona State University. Welcome to Civics in a Year, where we explore the ideas, people, and moments that shape American democracy. I'm Liz Evans. Today we pause to honor Veterans Day, a day set aside each year to recognize the men and women who have served in the United States Armed Forces. It's a day of gratitude and reflection and civic awareness, a reminder that the freedoms we enjoy depend on both sacrifice and participation. Veterans Day has deep roots in world history and in the evolution of America's own civic identity. It began with the end of World War I, a conflict so devastating at the time that it was called the War to End All Wars. On November 11th, 1918, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns fell silent. The armistice between the Allies and Germany went into effect, and the world exhaled. 1 year later, in 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as Armistice Day. He described it as a day to be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and gratitude for the victory that had brought peace. At first, Armistice Day was primarily a day of remembrance to honor those who fought and died in World War I. But as history unfolded, so did the meaning of the day. In the decades that followed, the United States entered new conflicts: World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, and beyond. By the early 1950s, millions more Americans had served, and many citizens began to ask whether one day of remembrance should honor all veterans, not just those from World War I. A Kansas shoe store owner named Alvin King played a key role in that change. King was a World War II veteran who believed Armistice Day should honor every American who served, in peace or in war. He organized local celebrations and reached out to Kansas Congressman Ed Reese, who introduced a bill in Congress to make it official. In 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, himself a five-star general who led Allied forces in World War II, signed the bill into law. Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day, broadening its scope to recognize all veterans, living and deceased, from every branch of the service. That change reflected something powerful: America's growing understanding that military service, in all of its forms, is central to the nation's civic story. In the years that follow, there were even some calendar changes. In 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Holiday Bill, moving several federal holidays, including Veterans Day, to create long weekends. For a few years, Veterans Day was observed in October, but many Americans objected, feeling that November 11th carries a special meaning, the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. So, in 1975, President Gerald Ford signed a law restoring the date to November 11th, where it remains today. So what does all of this mean beyond dates and proclamations? Veterans Day is not just a day off. It's a day to think about the relationship between service and citizenship. In a constitutional democracy, military service is unique. It represents a commitment to defend a system built on individual liberty and civic responsibility. But the service did not end with a uniform. Many veterans return home and continue to serve as teachers, first responders, public officials, community volunteers. Veterans have also shaped American democracy in profound ways. The GI Bill, passed in 1944, helped millions of returning World War II veterans attend college, buy homes, and start businesses, transforming the American middle class. The integration of the armed forces in 1948 set a precedent for the broader civil rights movement, showing that equality and unity could strengthen, not weaken, the nation. And throughout history, veterans have been leaders in civic reform, advocating for voting rights, healthcare, education, and justice. When we honor veterans, we are also honoring a civic ideal. The idea that service to others, whether it's in military or in daily life, sustains constitutional democracy. Because constitutional democracy isn't self sustaining, it depends on citizens who show up, who participate, and who care. That's why Veterans Day should inspire all of us to ask, how do we serve? Maybe it's volunteering, mentoring, or voting. Maybe it's simply taking time to listen, to understand the experiences of those who've served and what they've given up so we can live freely. So today, let's mark Veterans Day and let's do more than just remember. Let's engage. Let's thank a veteran, learn their story, and reflect on what their service means for our shared civic life. Let's carry that spirit forward in our schools, our communities, and in our daily actions. To all of those who have served and to their families, thank you. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you for your example. You remind us that our constitutional democracy is not a right we inherit, it's a responsibility we uphold. I'm Liz Evans, and this has been Civics in a Year. Thank you for listening, and happy Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day, everyone. I am very excited to have Representative Stacy Travers with us today. Representative Travers is a veteran of the U.S. Army and a representative in Arizona. So, Representative Travers, thank you so much for being here today. You've served both in the military and in public office. How has your experience in uniform shaped your approach to your civic leadership today?
I think it's helped inform how I legislate because when I was in the military, if you're on a mission or if you have a shared goal with your platoon or your squad or your company or whatever it may be, you don't really sit and take time to talk about political ideologies or religions or anything else really. You're just trying to get the mission accomplished. And I've brought that into how I legislate for my constituents. So while I may be a registered Democrat, that notwithstanding, it doesn't mean that I'm not very aware of all the people that I represent and that we're all working towards a common goal, which is making lives better for our communities and our families. Sometimes it might not be the same pathway, but that doesn't mean that I don't pay attention or don't take into account how other constituents might feel.
Mhm.
As long as it doesn't compromise my values, then I think that we can all take this journey together. And hopefully, I'm doing a good job. And if I'm not, then I get fired, and that's okay too. But having had that experience in the military with the discipline and the structure and the patriotism, it, basically having been in the military shapes everything that I am as a legislator. And so I'm very thankful for that experience.
So, what does Veterans Day then mean to you personally when it comes around every year?
Well, I think the most important thing is the fact that those who have served are recognized. We have lots of different military holidays, right? We have Memorial Day for those who lost their lives in service. We have those who, for Veterans Day, we have those who served and who are still serving. It's really actually quite amazing to see the number of those who were in the military who are still in some form of public service, whether
Mhm.
it's running for office or the incredible amount of support that has come from public service that has created veteran service organizations and everything that they do in the communities. And not just for veterans. I mean, you get the VFW, you get American Legion, you get AMVETS, you get Wounded Warriors. Yes, they're helping members of the military, former members of the military, but that echoes like a pebble into the community, right? You throw a pebble into the water, and then the ripple effect means that everybody in the community gets impacted by this. And so I'm always very humbled when I go to a Veterans Day event or to some kind of a dinner or some kind of an event that thanks those who are currently in the military, those who have served, and those who have lost their lives. It's a very profound humbling that there's such a goodness in people, and that transcends political parties, believe it or not. People are good and want to do good things, and it just again this stems from that micro system, that micro community that we're all a part of. There's a small number of us, and we know what it's like to be in this sort of other little society of military families, whether you're a spouse or whether you're a child or whether you have actually served, that very few people can understand. And so it's nice to see that it's recognized by folks who aren't in the military, that you sign a contract, and when you sign that contract you understand that you are potentially giving up your life in service for others to defend freedom and to defend our Western values. We see it everywhere. We see it in Chandler, we see it in Tempe, we see it in Phoenix. Those are the three cities that I represent. We also see it throughout all of Arizona. There is a recognition, and I just only wish that we had more resources and more money to do more for veterans here in the state. But Veterans Day is just a small way to recognize the service of those who have served in the military, and it's very honorable.
What do you wish more Americans understood about the connection between military service and citizenship?
That when we talk about why we joined the military, right? We always speak about it in broad terms, and that's to
Mhm.
defend your freedom. But I don't really think that we think about it in smaller bits. So what does that mean to have that freedom, right? And I was in Germany recently, and the last time I was there was before the wall fell down. And we had a East Germany and a West Germany, and the freedom that West Germany had was so incredibly different to what we had in East Germany at the time. And to be able to go back to see it now after the wall came down had such a profound impact on me for a couple of different reasons. Number one, to understand their history and to know that people there in that country understood the impact of what it was to actually have freedom. And by that I mean, what does freedom mean for us? It means the right to vote, to hold public office, to have access to health care, public education, to own land, to be able to find a job, any job that you want, is so profound that I see what's happening in the United States right now, and sometimes I fear for us. There's restrictions on who you can love and who you want to be and what books you can read, and who gets to walk in spaces, and who is able to control that, and what is the right way to do it. And I I just think this isn't what I signed up for when I joined the military. So I became a public servant out of the military so that I could continue to represent my constituency, or at least my district of the people of Arizona, so they could have those freedoms, and not just freedom in a broad way. It's so that they can be their happiest and live their best lives, right? We have in the preamble the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the only way that I could make sure that the generations ahead of us, and I'm doing a little bit of a word salad here, so for the folks listening, I thank you for your patience. You know, the, the there's a Native American concept of the things that you do should be considered in terms of how it's going to impact the 7 generations ahead of you. And so everything that I try to do tries to bear in mind how my kids are going to be impacted, how their kids are going to be impacted, how their kids after them are going to be impacted. And to recognize that, that is what freedom is. That is why we fight. And that is why we go around the world with our values so that people can have this right for their generations to come. And sometimes I mean, that it's just as simple as that. I mean, I love having this conversation with you, but it could have, I could have explained it in, I'm taking 20 minutes or 30 minutes to explain what could have been in 5. It's like that's what it is. That's what citizenship is. To be a good citizen is to be all working together towards a common good for everybody. And that is why I fought for your freedom. And so that's why I will continue to do that. And even when I'm no longer in public service, I hope that I will still be of value to the community, working towards that greater good and allowing, people the freedom to be happy, to feel safe, to be secure, to feel part of a society that cares about them. And that the only way to do that is to take yourself out of it. And again, that's what you learn in the military, is that you're all working towards this greater good, and you need to put your personal opinions and your personal feelings aside so that you can accomplish the mission. And that's my mission. That's my mission for my kids. That's my mission for my friends' kids, for the kids that I don't know, that I haven't met, for people I haven't. And I will always continue to do that, whether it's advocating for a school that's going to be closed at a school board meeting, whether that's standing up on the floor of the House of Representatives so that women can make their healthcare choices, so that people have a right to be safe. I don't always get it right. I'm very clunky with my language because I don't write pre-prepared speeches, as I think we might have heard on today's podcast, because it has to come from the heart. Then that's all I know how to be, right? When I joined the military, I was ready to give it my all, regardless. And here it's the same way. I can't be somebody I'm not. And you take me warts and all, but just know that I have a good heart and I'm doing it for everybody in the community. And I have been very blessed to have a great set of cities that I represent that have a great number of people there who are good people. And again, I'm word salading. I talk too much. I say I'm not a politician, but I talk like one. So grateful to be living in the United States. It's the best country in the world. We have so much more potential. I hope everybody can recognize that. And yeah, and thank you for everything that you're doing as well. The fact that you are also connected to community and making sure that you represent and give a voice to everybody in this space. I think not everybody's going to agree with what I have to say, and that's okay. I mean, we want different voices. We want dissenting voices, because the only way that we can get smarter is if we listen to others. And again, my military service and the fact that there are those out there who have sacrificed for everything that I've just said is important. It continues who we are as a society and what the values that we have. And I'm just grateful that those are out there recognizing it And I'm so thankful for Veterans Day. And it's always about the people that have just been doing the amazing work, not just for their service, but out in community too. So.
Yes. Representative Travers, thank you for your service in the military. Thank you for your service here in the state of Arizona. It is, where you talked about like, oh, I didn't have anything prepared, and nobody is ever going to see our faces on this because it's an audio podcast. But I definitely started to get teary because when you talk about freedom and you talk about the things people do to acknowledge our freedom, but also, like you said, when you join the military, you have a mission. You're not worried about if the person next to you votes a certain way. You're worried about the overall mission. And I think that that's what it means to be an American, right? The founders didn't say our country was perfect. They said more perfect. And that's what we're always striving for. And that's why we love our country. And we do the things that we do because we want to continue striving for that. So thank you so much. And to everybody listening, happy Veterans Day.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Civics in a Year. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who cares about a constitutional republic as much as you do. For more episodes, resources, and updates, follow us on social media or visit us at civics.asu.edu. Make sure to check out the show notes for any relevant links. Special thanks to the United States Marine Band for their performance of the Stars and Stripes Forever. Let's keep building a stronger constitutional republic, one episode at a time.